Australia has an AI problem. Over the past few years, we've seen this technology infiltrate almost every aspect of our lives. But have our policies, our laws, kept up with that rapid change? Well, spoiler alert, absolutely not. You know what they say, technology moves fast and governments move slow, or, well, we'll come back to that. AI is an incredibly powerful tool, and it's vital we make sure that it's used in a way that benefits people and the planet. We need to do everything we can to keep this from turning into another free-for-all, where big tech just gets richer and all at our expense. So let's talk about AI in Australia, what's gone wrong, and critically, how we can fix it. Where are we now? I'm sure I don't need to tell you it's a pretty mixed bag. AI has become integrated into the lives of many Australians, most Australians. Nearly 60% of Australians surveyed in March this year reported using an AI tool. Our government has started integrating it into their systems, including the public service and defence. In 2024, Australia's Department of Defence signed a $7.6 million contract with US-based AI-driven intelligence company Palantir. Companies like Coles are using Palantir to track employee and customer data. And to meet this growing demand, data centres have begun popping up around the country, with 250 estimated to already be in operation. In fact, some states like Victoria and New South Wales have become reliant on new data centre projects to drive lagging economic growth. AI has become woven into our government, our economy, our daily lives. But what is actually being done to make sure that that integration works for the Australian people? Well, to put it simply, not a whole lot. So let's talk about some of the ways regulation is failing us when it comes to AI. One pretty clear example is jobs. In April 2022, the year ChatGPT launched, and that seems pretty recent, youth unemployment sat at 8.8%. As of May this year, it sits at 10.4%. Now, there are a lot of factors contributing to that. But we know AI is changing how and who employers hire and fire. Just this year, tech company Atlassian cut nearly 500 jobs from its Australian workforce. CommBank cut 300 jobs, and even cosmetic company Adore Beauty, well, it cut 40 jobs. And they all admitted that that was related to AI. We know entry-level jobs especially are being threatened. And even when people aren't losing their jobs to AI, AI is changing how we work. The increasing presence of AI in workplaces is leading to higher workloads, more distractions, more time fixing incorrect AI outputs, and increased anxieties we all have. We're sharing this about the future. And that's not even getting started on creative industries, where artists, creatives are having their work scraped with no permission and then used to train the models that are then literally being used to replace them and exploit their ideas at the same time. It's clear AI is being used by and for the benefit of big businesses and bosses who are pushing AI adoption and job cuts with sometimes no consultation with workers. There just isn't any regulation in place to stop them and to protect working people. Another area where regulation is failing us is online truth and safety. AI has changed the shape of our internet in a number of critical ways, from the rise of chatbots to the increasing amount of AI slop filling our feeds. There's now more bot traffic than human traffic online. The lack of hard guardrails in this space has allowed all sorts of harm to occur, from AI psychosis and chatbots directing children and vulnerable people to hurt themselves, to deepfake and generated sexual assault material, such as the horrific, the exploitative deepfake images generated by Elon Musk's Grok. And meanwhile, increasingly realistic generated images, text, video, voice, is making it harder to tell true from fake. And we know this is being used to influence politics. But still, Australia has no regulation in place to stop the technology being used in this way. Regulation again fails when it comes to our environment, with incredibly power and water-hungry data centres popping up around the country like mushrooms. And this is despite really clear resistance and concerns from communities. And for all the pollution, the noise, the higher energy prices, Australians are seeing hardly any benefit from these centres, with the number of people they directly employ being debatable, and studies showing that 80 out of every $100 put into these data centres leaves Australia almost immediately to line the pockets of, well, mainly American billionaires. And at the most basic level, there are real concerns about who operates and who owns the AI models we use. Many of the biggest AI companies, think OpenAI, Anthropic, Palantir, companies that our economy and government have become increasingly reliant on, well, they're all based in the US, which raises the question, is it really in Australia's best interest to hand over a bunch of our data, most of our data, and to make ourselves reliant on a foreign country like that? Let alone to the currently Trump-led US, where tech bros are an increasingly extension of that increasingly fascist government. So how did we get here? How did we get to the point where the lack of AI laws is allowing such harm to proliferate? Well, years of inaction and basically gutlessness from Labor. Because here's a plot twist. There was a second there where Labor did look like they might actually implement strong mandatory guardrails on AI under former Minister Husic. And then when it came time to actually announce a national AI plan, well, they squibbed it, they scrapped it, and they demoted the minister, they sacked him in fact. And what did we get instead? We got what's called a light touch approach that claims all of the existing laws that have been in place for decades are enough to properly regulate AI. We then got fast-track data centre approvals. We got this thing called expectations rather than mandatory regulation, and all in the name of growth and economic benefit. So why exactly did Labor do this? Why did they squib it? Why did a government who claims to care about people, about workers, why did the government roll over so easily to this global AI industry? Well, I'm going to suggest it probably has something to do with all of those donations and where the power and the wealth lies. After all, many of the corporations and billionaires behind the AI boom have been incredibly generous to Labor. And I don't think it's because they love democracy. You've got Australian AI and data centre billionaires like Robin Cooder and Ed Craven attending Labor fundraising events and making donations, sizable donations, to the Labor Party. In Victoria, you've got data centre company CDC Data Centres donating to the Victorian Labor Party. And one of their big donations happened just a week before the Premier opened their first data centre in the state. And mind you, that was also, I think it was 3 weeks after they were invited to the party at the Australian Open by a then government minister. And then there are the donations from people outside the AI industry who benefit from it, like Westpac, whose CEO recently called for the Treasurer to stop being concerned about AI's potential negative impact and urging the government and Australians to invest in it further. In 2024 to 2025, Westpac donated $94,811 to Labor. And here the CEO is pictured laughing it up with the Prime Minister and Treasurer, and at a Parliament House event that his company sponsored. And when it comes to US control, well, Labor has proven outside of AI that they're ready to jump the second that the US tells them to, even when it doesn't serve Australians' interest. Just look at their support for the war in Iran, or the $375 billion white elephant disaster zone that is AUKUS. It's clear Labor has once again sold Australia out to the highest bidder. And these bidders are bidding big, the AI billionaires and their corporate mates who are looking to cut wages with the AI they roll out. They've bent over backwards to make sure that their donors and their cashed up mates are happy and profiting, at the expense of Australians and at the expense of our environment. It doesn't have to be like this. We could have laws that put in guardrails for AI, hard guardrails. And it's already been done in other countries around the world, countries like South Korea, who are forcing companies to label AI-generated content. In the EU, which has a comprehensive AI Act which particularly focuses on protecting data. And in France and Germany, where they're ditching US software on critical government platforms to try and curb their reliance on US and US tech. Now, they say that tech moves fast and the government moves slow, but that really lets the Labor government off the hook. Government can move fast, and it does in other countries, and ours almost did before it, well, chickened out. So, no, the failure of AI regulation in this country is cowardice and economic self-interest by Labor. If we want AI laws in this country that work for people and the planet, and I do, well then we need politicians who aren't in the pocket of big tech bros, big corporations, and, well, the US. It's time we uncoupled ourselves from this US tech, and it's time for an AI Act, an Australian one, that reins in big tech and empowers Australians. And that's how we start to fix Australia's AI problem.
Authorised by J. McCall, Australian Greens, Canberra.